Time now to wrap things up for the week with our line panelists. The challenge is a big one for Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, but it's not a new one. How do we as a state diversify our economy and protect our environment while also relying on all the money that comes from the oil and gas industry to our state? That tightrope is even narrower these days as we experience a new oil and gas boom in the Permian Basin, which is leading to record budget surpluses here. And those budget surpluses would help pay for some of her biggest initiatives, like the governor's plan to offer free tuition to almost all college students. And Laura, would you describe her approach so far as trying to thread a needle, more like trying to have her cake and eat it too? Or there's got to be some cliche here that's appropriate. I'm not quite sure what it is, but like I said, it's not new to try to make this balancing act. How's she doing on this so far?
Well, I mean, it's new for her. I mean, she's in a new position. And so I think that I'm glad that any governor looks at this issue as something that's important. So we have to diversify our economy. We're completely dependent on oil and gas and extractive industries, and that means that when they're up, we're up, and when they're down, the state's down. That's not good. So we have to figure out how to diversify. That being said, though, I mean, the oil and gas boom is real. It's definitely having a huge impact to communities in southeast New Mexico, as well as the Farmington area. But it's also having some very real consequences. I mean, I used to travel down there quite a bit monthly, and I would pay more for a hotel in Carlsbad than I would right now for a hotel in San Francisco. That's a problem.
Think about that.
Especially for people who can't. I mean, the cost of living is so high because of this that a lot of people who just work at a hotel have to have multiple jobs to keep up. And so there's real consequences. Not everybody is making money from the oil and gas boom. Now, local communities tend to be a little bit more flush if they're responsible with their budgeting and whatnot. But I think for the governor's office, it's definitely a challenge that it's an important one to address. It's an important one to have a conversation on. I'm a little skeptical about whether anything can happen in this next session because it's just such a huge issue.
Yeah, it is.
But I also think that the tuition, the free tuition issue is an interesting one because while we all support education, there's definitely a segment of the population that doesn't feel like it should be tied to oil and gas.
Right.
And there's something that just sort of doesn't make sense.
I'm going to ask Tom to pick up on that. That's an interesting point Laura just made, that a lot of younger people, students, are feeling like that's not quite the way to get free tuition because that's not free. They consider that not free money, basically. Yeah,
it's an interesting dilemma. In one of the pre-reads that we had before today's episode, I think it was NBC News had an article that raised the question of, it's an enormous moral question. Does having free tuition at the expense of what some would think of the environment justify that free education? And so, I think those are things people definitely need to weigh. I think the other thing that the industry itself, as far as oil and gas needs to weigh, is how do they bridge that gap of relevancy outside of the energy producing areas? Because that's probably the biggest challenge that they have right now is creating that relevancy in northern New Mexico, in the Albuquerque area. They are, really creating these huge, it's a tremendous economic impact. And is it short-lived? Is it long-lived? That remains to be seen. But how do you create that relevancy from the industry with New Mexico residents? And I think that's the biggest challenge the oil and gas industry has right now.
Interesting point there. Julianne, the governor recently spoke at a conference for the oil and gas leaders, and there were a lot of niceties put out there. She wants to work with the industry on some things, but there are some challenges, particularly on the environmental side, which the governor has been very strong on, and particularly fracking and how we get, some handle on this. Again, the threading of the needle thing here. Can she actually talk with these people and come to some kind of middle ground?
She's got an odd balance that she needs to keep here, and I think that the forward-looking thought here that many people are trying to keep in mind is, while we have this money, while we're in the boom, what can we do to reduce dependence on it in the future? The word diversify is one that comes up a lot, but this idea that how do we take the big activity that's happening now and how do we leverage it, for the future? I think another issue that's really important that maybe doesn't get as much play right now is the issue of accountability within New Mexico. Not only are we dealing with trying to get some responsibility from the extractive industries on methane capture, But we're dealing with, on the oil extraction side, our oil and gas conservation division has not been able to have very much teeth in its regulations. They haven't really been able to hold the industry as accountable as I think a lot of people would like to see. Certainly not as accountable as the environmental advocates would like to see. And so how do we spend the money as a state? How do we regulate this industry moving forward in a way that seems like it's going to create the best future for those kids that are going to get free college from oil and gas? I think that's the big question.
Julianne mentioned that the administration here is at odds with the federal administration about methane gas rules, the fracking thing. I mean, these are big issues, Michael. Huge, huge, huge issues. But the governor on her side fairly has, on her side of the deal, she has the research available. She has R&D available. She could meet industry halfway here, it seems to me, especially on the fracking produced water thing, to say, how do we deal with this and spin this water? There's a lot of pushback on that, but there's got to be a tech solution she could help bring to the table here, it would seem to me.
Well, I'm going to start with a comment that Tom made. That first of all, nothing is free.
Right.
There's a cost to everything you do.
Is that what the students need to hear?
Well,
there's no free money out there?
Well, I think we all need to remember that,
Right.
not just the students, but nothing
Right.
is really free. There are costs associated with everything, every decision, and the question is who benefits and at what cost. I'm just going to read something just to offer a little perspective. The University of New Mexico research at Good to UNM finds uranium in women and babies. Federally funded research from the University of New Mexico recently found that more than 25% of adult female study participants, plus some infants, have radioactive uranium present in their bodies. For decades, uranium ore was harvested from Navajo lands, leading to even more decades of pain and illness. There are consequences, and I'm not saying fracking is the same thing, but what I would say is that we need to recognize again that that there is a cost and a benefit, and we need to be demonstrate some wisdom, and in terms of recognizing that we are in a desert state, and water is precious, and given global warming that is occurring, from what I've seen in some of the studies about New Mexico, it's only going to get worse here in New Mexico. Right. So I think we really need to have a conversation. It's more than just who. It's more than just dollars and cents. It's really about being good stewards for the land and the resources we have, as well as really trying to figure out what is in the best interest of the citizens of the state of New Mexico for the long term, not just the short term.
That's right.
The short term's easy.
That's right. That gets to Julianne's point about the money, take the money as we have it, Laura, and just use it to spin into something else, some new world. But I want to stay on this produced water thing here for a quick second, because our Environment Department, the New Mexico Environment Department, has announced, actually just last week, they want to start seeing some activity on this. And I know Los Alamos had some activity a few years ago about how to re-spin produced water from fracking. But a lot of farmers don't want anything to do with this. They consider it to be ruinous for for New Mexico's reputation if we're using produced water to grow crops. So you see the dilemma here? We need some kind of big fix here in order for industry to get their needs met and for environmentalists to get their needs met as well. It's a tough play here.
It is. I mean, this issue is, it's not new. I mean, this is something that's been happening for a long time.
Right.
But I think that there's a recognition that there's more urgency. I mean,
That's
we're
right.
definitely not, we're a dry state. We have water table issues. It's always going to be a problem. And so there is, I think, a desire to try to come up with some solution there. But I understand what the farmers are talking about. And, back to what Michael was saying, we don't know what the effects are long term of that.
That's
and
right.
and even though you may have a technology that says, this is what it's safe,
That's
you
right.
can use it.
That's right.
You really don't know until you've had generations.
And we've had
what
quotes from the
effects.
Environment Department saying they want science to lead the way here,
Which
not
is the right
folklore.
thing.
Exactly right. That's all the time we have for this week. Thank you all for your research and thoughtful opinions, certainly. And don't forget, you can find out more about our panelists each week and get behind-the-scenes access by checking out our new Instagram page. Just search for NM in Focus.